Thanks for watching CBS News 24/7. I'm Lindsay Reiser. We begin this hour with breaking news. Former New York Congressman George Santos has pleaded guilty to 2 federal felony counts in a Long Island courtroom today. The expelled New York lawmaker appeared in court this afternoon. This is video of him walking into the federal courthouse where no cameras are allowed. He was facing 23 felony counts. He pleaded guilty today to wire fraud and aggravated identity theft. The judge hearing the case estimated that Santos will face somewhere between 6 and 8 years in his sentencing later this year. Inside that courtroom was CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane. He is now outside that federal courthouse on Long Island with more. So, Scott, Santos was charged with 23 counts. He's pleaded guilty to 2. What's the significance of that?
The 2 counts to which he pleaded guilty are wire fraud and aggravated identity theft. More on each of those in a moment, but the bottom line is the aggravated identity theft comes with a 2-year mandatory minimum federal prison term. The wire fraud charge also could get him between 4 and 6 years, so the estimate so far, and it's a rough estimate at this point, is he's facing 6 to 8 years in prison when he's sentenced February 7th. And more about those 2 charges. According to the statement of facts to which George Santos pleaded guilty today, he used at least one person's identity and credit card for his own personal gain, at least one person. That's the aggravated identity theft, and to that count, he is also going to be asked to make restitution of more than $373,000 as part of this plea agreement. The wire fraud charge, according to the statement of facts read in court today, was a false set of information he gave out about his fundraising, about what was being done with the money he raised for his congressional campaign in 2022 before he won the 3rd district seat in New York. He admitted several other things that aren't part of the plea agreement but might be relevant in sentencing. He acknowledged he ripped off New York State's unemployment system, applying for and getting unemployment benefits to which he was not entitled. He also acknowledged making false statements when he filed financial statements in September 2022 to the U.S. House Clerk and the House Ethics Committee as part of his campaign financial statements to the U.S. House. Those are acknowledgments. The judge can consider it sentencing, which determines what prison term George Santos should face. We were inside the room as this happened. George Santos walked in with 3 attorneys on each side of him. He, at some point, was laughing, joking, having some levity with the attorneys before the judge walked in. But when she came in, Lindsay, and read through this statement of facts and asked George Santos to acknowledge each one, he spoke so softly, leaning over, seated at the defense table, into the microphone and saying, "Yes, Your Honor," each time. Very little expression on his face as he did so. George Santos will exit the courthouse today and return here February 7th in Central Islip, New York, to find out just how long he's expected to spend in federal prison.
I am amazed that prior to the judge going into that courtroom that he was laughing or appearing jovial at one point. Now, I mean, who knows how people deal with a serious subject like this. I can only imagine that many defendants in that case are not having those expressions. But you mentioned that he's admitting in court, for example, making false statements to the FEC, the theft, crimes that he's not pleading guilty to. So is it part of the agreement that he has to admit that he committed those and then the judge would consider those for sentencing?
Not only was that the agreement that they hashed out, that is what he signed in the plea agreement, acknowledging a series of other pieces of misconduct that he's not pleading guilty to, but which will be relevant as they close this case, and potentially most relevant in his case, at sentencing. The restitution dollar amount solicited a little bit of a gasp in the room among some of the spectators. He's going to have to pay back nearly $400,000, presumably to the victims of these crimes, potentially including the aggravated identity theft victims. But George Santos, at some point, was looking back in the crowd to see who was there, kind of eyeball who was watching this. Must be one of the worst days of his life. But he showed such little expression as this proceeding took place, as the judge read these things aloud. In fact, George Santos asked that she not read aloud the statement of facts, the iteration of this crime, but the prosecutors asked that she do so. Judge Joanna Siebert read it aloud for everybody to hear.
You know, just to give people a little walk down memory lane here, is this former lawmaker and has now fallen from grace. He was running for Congress in this district. It was a little-known local newspaper who uncovered this, and then more publications, national media started picking up on this. He ended up being elected, and all of these fabrications and untruths were coming out, and some of them, okay, so you didn't go to this college, you didn't play volleyball. Some of that is just sort of lends itself more to the personality archetype, but the criminal activity that we're talking about here, it also has sort of this interesting political angle, because not only allegedly was he using, and I say allegedly because, Scott, you'll tell me if this is what he was pleading guilty to as well, but using some of these funds for the Botox and the spa and the designer clothing, but he was also trying to bloviate and fabricate and make it look like he was getting these big dollar donors when he wasn't.
His story has so many twists and turns, it's easy to forget the things that were not criminally charged here. He acknowledged fabricating key parts of his biography, of his life story, of his family's roots, claiming he had lineage to Holocaust survivors and 9/11 survivors. He also made up stories about where he went to school, that he was an athlete in college, that he worked for a Fortune 500 company. That is what got him in trouble before these charges were filed. There were colleagues in the Republican Party in the U.S. House from New York who wanted him to stand down or quit the House even before he was charged with a crime. They tried to apply pressure to get him to quit, to stand down, but his pain tolerance politically was quite high. It took an expulsion, a remarkably rare move in the U.S. House of Representatives in December, to boot him from Congress. The criminal case dogged him ever since. There were plea negotiations we knew ongoing for months. They seemed to fall apart or hit a rough patch weeks ago or a few months ago. But they came together ahead of what was going to be just a pre-trial conference at 3 p.m. Eastern time today. It turned into a plea agreement hearing. And he is now an admitted federal felon facing sentencing in about 5 months.
Maybe he will use some of that money that he made on Cameo to pay this restitution. Scott MacFarlane, thank you.